This is the big one. Okay, so when I reviewed the Sony XM6 headphones a couple of weeks ago, I asked the question at the end of that video, which other headphones do you want me to compare the latest Sonys against? And by far the most popular request was the Bowers Wilkins Px7 S3s. Lots of other requests, by the way, and we will be making more of these videos comparing against the XM6. Make sure you hit subscribe not to miss those videos. But today, it's all about the battle between Bowers Wilkins and Sony, and it's a big one. And although this video isn't sponsored, we do have some fantastic brand partners who help us keep the lights on in this studio. One of those is Brain FM. All I'm going to say about Brain FM is the fact that I've been using it for the last 3 years and it helps me get stuff done. It basically locks you into this kind of flow state. It's music piped into your head that can make you more productive. And for me, it works big time. And the big thing is that there's a big discount, basically, a huge discount in the description down below. Go and check it out. I'm going to stop waffling about that sort of stuff and get straight into this battle. Right, pricing. They're the same, basically. So £399 in the UK and $449 in the US. That is quite expensive, but actually it's what you pay for decent noise cancelling headphones these days. So that's no surprise, and at least they're on level pegging terms there. That makes this comparison a little bit easier. There are some differences that are worth mentioning. So the drivers, for instance, the Px7 S3 use larger 40mm drivers versus the Sony's 30mm drivers. The Sony XM6 are quite a bit lighter, 254 grams versus 300 grams. There's quite a few differences with the codecs. We'll put them on the screen now. So here's the Sony codecs here, and here is the Bowers Wilkins codecs here. The big difference really is that the Sonys have LDAC support and the Px7 S3s have aptX support, including aptX lossless. That's quite a big deal for some people. I don't really get into codecs for a reason that I will reveal in a moment, but if you do, that could very much sway your buying decision. Battery life, they both have 30 hours with noise cancelling turned on. Sony does quote 40 hours with it turned off, but Bowers Wilkins doesn't quote any kind of noise cancelling turned off battery life. Charging wise, the Px7 S3 give you 7 hours of playback from a 15-minute charge, and Sony gives you about 3 hours from a 3-minute charge. That's it in terms of that, really. Microphones, the Px7 S3 have 8 mics with ADI pure voice, whereas Sony uses MEMS omnidirectional mics, and that's quite boring because all that matters really is how they sound against each other, what the noise cancelling's like, and, well, let's start with the design and the case. Starting with design, I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so let me know what you think in the comments in terms of which pair of headphones you prefer and why. I find that really interesting. For me, the Px7 S3s just look a little bit more premium, I think. Interestingly, they both feel very similar. They both have lots of plastic going on. The design of the Px7 S3s just looks a little bit better than the XM6. However, the XM6 do have this minimalist thing going on, so you could argue that they look a bit more modern than the Px7 S3s. It's very much a matter of taste. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you have no hair, it's worth mentioning this. I will always mention this on headphone reviews because I don't have any hair. The Px7 S3s, I think, look a little bit better. Us follically challenged people, we don't have any hair here. Can't hear a thing, sorry. To kind of fill in that gap between your head and the band. So the fact that the Px7 S3s are fairly shallow in terms of the depth of the cup compared to the XM6, which are quite chunky headphones, I think does make a difference. Or if you just don't like big chunky headphones, I don't know. But then the XM6 look alright as well, don't they? They don't look too bad. The other thing to mention is the buttons. So on the Px7 S3s, we have just button controls, no touch controls whatsoever. Big fan of that. On the XM6, we have 2 buttons. We have a very nicely redesigned power button, which is recessed now and circular, so you can find it very easily on your head, and a noise cancelling button, and that's it. The rest of the controls, you know, the play controls and the volume is done via touch, which works on the XM6. They are one of the better touch control headphones, but given the choice, I would always opt for purely button-based controls. So Bowers Wilkins wins there. In terms of the case, it's not much of a battle really. The Px7 S3 case is pretty good. It's very well made, and also it has this very satisfying magnetic flappy thing to put your cables into. It's a lovely case in that respect, but when it comes to cases, the most important thing is, for me anyways, is size. It's getting it into your bag and it not being a faff to live with. And as you can see, the Px7 S3 case is quite a bit bigger, and the XM6 case has this very satisfying and very useful clasp for closing it, which means you lose the zip. There's no zip on these whatsoever, which, trust me, doesn't matter. Some people were worried about that in my previous review, saying, does it make it less secure? Does it let moisture in? All that sort of stuff. No, trust me, I've been using these for a few weeks now, and this is the best case I've ever used. Mainly because of that, it's just so easy to get into. The only downside is that you have this great big thing here, and we don't have the magnetic flap thing inside for the cables. We have this kind of little pouch, which is a little bit too small. That is nitpicking. The reason this case is smaller than this case is because the XM6 fold properly. They are one of the few new modern headphones that do that. The Px7 S3s don't. They only fold like that, which means the case is bigger. Sony is leading the way with the case. I'll stop talking about the case because it annoys some people. Let's get straight to the comfort. As mentioned earlier, the XM6 are quite a bit lighter than the Px7 S3s, although when you hold them like that, you can't really tell, but then no one does that. What matters is what they're like on your head, and the XM6 are definitely lighter. You can feel that lack of weight on your head versus the Px7 S3s. That said, the Px7 S3s aren't heavy. They're still incredibly comfortable headphones. Interestingly, the Px7 S3s do have more cushioning than the XM6s, both on the headband but also the ear cups. In reality, that doesn't seem to make any difference. Basically, guys, these are very comfortable headphones. I can't really split it between the two of them. They feel very comfortable immediately, and neither of them wear badly over time. The only thing to bear in mind, which some people do have lots of questions about, is the fact that the Px7 S3s have much deeper ear cups. So if that's an issue for you, if that's something that you've had a problem with in terms of fit and comfort in the past, that's definitely worth bearing in mind. And the XM6s do have this, there's something protruding in here. I'm not sure what it is. It doesn't affect my wearing of them at all. I can't feel it. I'd recommend trying them just in case. But yeah, they're both on a par for me when it comes to comfort. They are two of the most comfortable headphones I've ever worn. Okay, sound. Now, let's not beat around the bush. Straight off the bat, the Px7 S3s sound better than the XM6. They genuinely do, out of the box. Now, you can EQ both of these headphones, and I think if you spent a bit of time EQing the XM6, you'd get them sounding as good as the Px7 S3s. But I firmly believe that most people who buy headphones, particularly noise-cancelling headphones in the consumer realm, won't do that. They probably won't even install the app. They'll just turn them on, put them on their head, and start listening. Now, bearing that in mind, again, there's not much to split between the two when you just buy one pair and start listening to them, because they both sound fantastic out the box. No one does this. Because only headphone reviewers and comparison people like myself do that. You're not going to buy both of these, I don't think, and try them both on at the same time. However, when you do that, the Px7 S3s just sound better. They sound fuller, they sound richer, they've got more punch. This is a really tough one, guys, because I'm not going to go into all the details in terms of, frequency responses and all that stuff, because I'm not an audiophile. This is not an audiophile channel. Everyone has their own opinion, and I fully respect that. But for me, that is when music and audio becomes incredibly boring, when you look at it very analytically. For me, I just want a good sounding pair of headphones, and both of these deliver that in their own right. It's only when you compare the two that the Px7 S3s sound almost perfect. Both of them have very nice bass, very nice tight controlled bass. Both of them have lots of presence, and that the vocals really punch through. The top end on both of them is very sparkly without being tiring and without being too harsh. There's just something more rounded, more full about the Px7 S3 audio. The only other thing to bear in mind with audio is the fact that the XM6 do have the kind of spatial audio, 360 audio thing that Sony has been putting into its headphones for quite a while now. At the time of filming, which is May 2025, we don't have that from Bowers Wilkins, but we're told it's coming later this year, I think. So they're going to have their own kind of spatial audio thing happening. For me, that isn't a use case. I don't use spatial audio at all, really. So if I had to pick one pair of headphones out of these two, purely based on sound, it's the Px7 S3s. They are brilliant, and that is not a surprise at all. I'm not sitting on the fence with this, I'm just being honest. If you buy either pair of headphones, you're going to be extremely happy. The XM6 are a massive upgrade over both the XM4 and definitely the XM5. Oh, and as mentioned earlier, I don't have much of an interest in codecs, illustrated by the fact that I use my iPhone 16e, yes really, and Apple Music to do do these tests because it's what I know the sound, it's just what works for me. I'm fully aware that you can get higher bitrate codecs for both of these headphones, but that's my testing. Anyway, so Bowers & Wilkins in terms of sound win, but what about noise cancelling? Once again, let's not beat around the bush. The XM6 are better than the Px7 S3s when it comes to noise cancelling. If you listen to both of these headphones in isolation for noise cancelling, if you excuse the horrible pun, they are both very good. You won't be disappointed with the Bowers & Wilkins Px7 S3s. They have the best noise cancelling that Bowers & Wilkins has ever offered, and you can tell it's definitely better than before. But when I A/B test these two headphones, if I go from the XM6 to the Px7 S3s, the best way to describe it is that the Px7 S3s just sound like the noise cancelling has been dialed back a bit. It's been turned off a little bit. The outside world comes in a little bit more, whereas the XM6, they're just the best I've ever heard. They are superb. For me, when it comes to noise cancelling, you have Sony, you have Bose, and then you have the rest, and Bowers & Wilkins sit within the rest, even though they're still very good. But if noise cancelling is absolutely imperative to you, then go with the Sonys. The other thing that I know that matters for a lot of you guys is calling quality, and well, let's do a test. Before I do that, the pass-through mode on both of these headphones when you let the outside world in is comparable. They're both very good in that respect, and that does make a big difference with calls because you can hear your own voice clearly, so no problem there whatsoever. But for you to be the judge of the quality of the calls, here are two examples. Right, first up we have the Bowers & Wilkins Px7 S3s. Walking down a fairly noisy high street, cars coming past, there's wind hitting me in the face as well, so I can hear that on the ear cups. Actually, that's one thing to note. I can definitely hear some wind noise on the ear cups. But let me know what you think about the calling quality in the comments, please. I think this is quite a realistic test. A lot of us do walk down the street and ring things on our headphones. So yeah, let me know what you think. Now, over to the XM6. And this is the audio from the Sony XM6. Same street. Very busy, lots of road noise, lots of people walking around. Again, wind hitting me in the face, hitting the ear cups. I can still hear that wind on these, actually. It's not any different to the Bowers & Wilkins. If anything, the pass-through mode on the Bowers & Wilkins seems slightly better out here, but only by a touch, not much. They're both very good with that. But again, guys, let me know what you think about the calling quality, the audio, in the comments. Back to me in the studio. I've not been looking forward to this part of the video because it feels like I've got to pick a favourite child. I love both of these headphones. I think both Sony and Bowers & Wilkins are at the top of their game at the moment when it comes to noise cancelling headphones. They are brilliant. However, I've got to pick a favourite because if I don't pick a favourite, you guys will roast me in the comments quite rightly. And based on my current use case for noise cancelling headphones, which is putting them on my head, locking out the outside world and getting work done, it's the XM6. I think that's where the kind of split between these two headphones is. In fact, it's obvious that's where it is. If you want the best audio, the best possible audio, get the Px7 S3s. If noise cancelling is very, very, very important to you, but you still want very good audio, get the XM6. It's as simple as that. I think most people will fall into one of those camps, which means I can turn this over to you now, guys. I'm off the hook. Let me know in the comments which pair of headphones are for you out of these two. Have you bought them already? Are you planning on buying them? Let me know, and let me know why down below in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because we have more comparisons for the XM6 on the way. Can't wait. Anyway, get involved.